Elena Vasquez walked through the long hallway toward the council chambers. Her boots clicked on the smooth metal floor. She had made this walk many times before, but today felt different. Today, the air seemed heavier. The Galactic Council building stretched up into the clouds above the planet Nexus Prime. It was built from materials that shined like mirrors, reflecting the light of 3 suns. Aliens from hundreds of worlds worked here, making decisions that affected trillions of lives across the galaxy. Elena was humanity's main voice in this place. For 20 years, she had spoken for Earth and all human colonies. She had negotiated trade deals, settled disputes, and kept the peace between species that hated each other. It was hard work, but she believed in it. The Council had rules for everything: where ships could travel, what planets could be settled, how many children each species could have. These rules kept the galaxy stable, they said. Without them, there would be wars everywhere. Humans had a special job in this system. When words failed and fighting started, humans were sent to fix things. They were good at it. Human soldiers could work with any species. Human diplomats could find solutions when others gave up. Human engineers could build things that lasted. The council members liked to say that humans were naturally violent. This was true, Elena knew. Humans had fought wars on Earth for thousands of years, but they had also learned to control that violence. They used it to protect others, not to destroy them. Now Elena stood outside the main chamber, reading the message that had brought her here. The words made her stomach feel sick. She read them again, hoping she had made a mistake. The door opened with a soft sound. Inside, the chamber was huge and dark. Light came from crystals that floated in the air. The council members sat in a circle around Elena. Some looked like giant insects. Others were made of living rock. A few were just clouds of gas in glass containers. High Arbiter Thysahan spoke for the council. His voice came from a crystal body that sang when he talked. Ambassador Vasquez, thank you for coming quickly. Elena bowed her head. High Arbiter, I received your message about new policies regarding humanity. Yes. Thysahan's crystal body glowed brighter. The council has decided that humanity needs guidance. The word guidance made Elena's hands form fists. She kept them behind her back where the council could not see them. What kind of guidance? Another council member spoke. This one looked like a tree made of metal. Humans have become too independent, too dangerous. Recent events have shown this clearly. Elena thought about those recent events. 3 months ago, human peacekeepers had stopped a war between the Zelani and the Kors. They had done this by threatening to destroy both fleets if they did not stop fighting. It worked. The war ended. But the council was not happy about the methods used. The Zelani core conflict was resolved peacefully, Elena said. No one died. Yes, but humans made threats of violence, Thysahan replied. They acted without council permission. This cannot continue. Elena felt something cold in her chest. What exactly are you proposing? Thysahan gestured, and words appeared in the air between them. Elena read them carefully. Each line made the cold feeling in her chest grow stronger. Human colonies would be watched by council observers. These observers would have the power to change any laws they did not like. Human military ships would be given council officers who could override human commanders. Human children would attend schools run by the council to learn proper behavior. Elena read the last part twice. Human families would need council permission to have children. The council would decide who could reproduce and who could not. This is insane, Elena said, forgetting her diplomatic training. This is necessary, Thysahan replied calmly. Humans breed too fast and too violently. Left alone, they will overrun the galaxy within a few generations. Elena looked around the chamber. Every council member was watching her. She could see fear in their alien faces. They were afraid of humanity. After 300 years of faithful service, they saw humans as a threat to be controlled. Humans have served the council loyally for centuries, Elena said, trying to keep her voice steady. We have fought your wars. We have kept your peace. We have asked for very little in return. And we are grateful, said the metal tree being. But gratitude does not change biology. Humans are predators. Predators must be controlled. Elena thought about her own children back on Earth. Her daughter Sarah was studying to be a doctor. Her son Michael wanted to explore new planets. Under these new rules, they might never be allowed to have children of their own. You are talking about the end of human freedom. Elena said. We are talking about galactic stability, Tyson replied. These measures will ensure peace for all species. Elena stared at the floating words that described humanity's future slavery. The Council was not asking for these changes. They were demanding them. Human colonies that refused would be cut off from trade. Human ships that resisted would be destroyed. How long do we have to consider this? Elena asked. There is nothing to consider, Tyson said. These policies begin immediately. Council ships are already moving to implement them. Elena felt something break inside her chest. It was not her heart. It was something deeper. It was the belief that the Council was fair, the belief that serving them was right, the belief that humans had a place in this galaxy as free beings. I see, Elena said quietly. We know this is difficult, Tyson continued, but humans will adapt. They always do. In time they will see that this is for the best. Elena nodded slowly. She was thinking about Admiral Chen Wei back on Earth. He was in charge of humanity's military forces. He was also her brother. She wondered what he would say when she told him about this meeting. Is there anything else? Elena asked. Only this, Tyson said. Humanity has two choices. Accept these new policies peacefully, or face the combined military might of the entire Council. We hope they choose wisely. Elena left the chamber feeling numb. She walked back through the long hallway, but this time she noticed things she had not seen before. The walls were covered with symbols from hundreds of species, but she could not find a single human symbol anywhere. In her ship, Elena sent a coded message to Earth. She told Admiral Chen about the meeting. She told him about the new policies. She told him about the threat. Then she sat in her captain's chair and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, Council ships were already moving toward human colonies. Children were about to be taken from their families. Humans were about to become prisoners in their own homes. Elena had spent her life believing that the galaxy was big enough for everyone, that different species could live together peacefully. That violence was never the answer. But as she watched a Council fleet jump to hyperspace heading toward human territory, she began to think that maybe she had been wrong. Maybe some things were worth fighting for. Maybe freedom was one of them. Elena started her ship's engines and set course for Earth. Admiral Chen would need to know everything. And then humanity would have to decide what kind of future they wanted. The Council thought they had humanity under control. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Captain Marcus Torres stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Defiance. Through the main window he could see New Geneva colony spread out below him. The planet looked peaceful from space. Green fields, blue oceans, and white clouds covered most of the surface. Cities dotted the continents like small gems. Marcus had been born on New Geneva. His parents still lived there. His sister ran a school in the capital city. His nephew was visiting for the summer. It was a good place, full of good people who just wanted to live their lives in peace. But today, that peace was ending. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Vasquez met with the Galactic Council. 3 months since the Council announced their new policies for humanity. Marcus had hoped the politicians would find a way to stop this. He had been wrong. Council ships filled the space around New Geneva. Big, ugly vessels that looked like flying cities. Each one carried thousands of alien soldiers and enough weapons to level mountains. They had arrived this morning with orders to implement the Galactic Stability Initiative. Marcus hated that name. The Council made it sound like they were helping humanity, like taking away human freedom was a gift. His communications officer turned toward him. Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Governor Kim wants to speak with you. Put her through, Marcus said. Governor Sarah Kim appeared on the main screen. She was a tough woman who had led New Geneva for 10 years. Marcus had never seen her cry before, but now tears ran down her face. Marcus, she said, her voice shaking. They're taking the children. Marcus felt his blood turn cold. What do you mean? Council ships landed 2 hours ago, Sarah explained. They brought thousands of soldiers. They went straight to all the schools, all the homes with children. They said that anyone under 16 needs education to remove violent human tendencies. On the screen behind Sarah, Marcus could see chaos in the streets. Alien soldiers in battle armor were herding groups of children toward transport ships. Parents ran after them, screaming and crying. Some tried to fight the soldiers and were stunned with energy weapons. How many? Marcus asked quietly. 312 children from the capital alone, Sarah said. They're taking them to processing centers on their ships. Then they'll be sent to Council education facilities in the core systems. Marcus gripped the armrest of his captain's chair so hard that the metal bent. His nephew Kevin was down there somewhere. 14 years old, interested in astronomy. Wanted to join the Space Navy when he grew up. Now he was being loaded onto an alien ship like cargo. "Governor, what are your orders?" Marcus asked, though he already knew what he wanted to do. "I don't know," Sarah said honestly. "Our planetary defense forces tried to resist. The Council ships destroyed 3 of our stations without warning. They said any further resistance would result in orbital bombardment." Marcus looked around his bridge. His crew was watching him carefully. These were good people who had served with him for years. They had families on New Geneva, too. Lieutenant Hayes at the communications station had a younger sister. Engineer Park's twin boys were visiting their grandmother. Security Chief Rodriguez had 4 nephews living on the planet. "Captain," said Lieutenant Hayes, "I'm getting reports from other colonies. The same thing is happening everywhere. The Council is taking all human children between the ages of 5 and 16. Marcus closed his eyes for a moment. In his mind, he could see the future the Council wanted. Human children raised by aliens taught to hate their own nature, turned into perfect servants who would never question orders. It was not education. It was brainwashing. When he opened his eyes, his decision was made. "Lieutenant Hayes, open a channel to all ships in the system." "Sir?" Hayes looked confused. "That includes Council ships." "I know," Marcus said. "I want them to hear this." Hayes nodded and worked at his controls. "Channel open, sir." Marcus stood up and faced the main screen. "This is Captain Marcus Torres of the United Earth ship Defiance. I am addressing all vessels in the New Geneva system." He paused for a moment, thinking about what he was about to do. For 30 years he had served in the human navy. He had followed orders without question. He had believed in the mission to keep galactic peace, but watching children being stolen from their families, he realized that some orders should not be followed. The Galactic Council has declared that human children must be taken from their families for re-education. Marcus continued. "They call this the Galactic Stability Initiative. I call it kidnapping." On his tactical display, Marcus could see Council ships moving to surround his vessel. Energy signatures showed they were charging weapons. He did not care. "For 300 years, humanity has served the galaxy faithfully," Marcus said. "We have fought wars for species we barely knew. We have died to protect worlds we never saw. We have kept the peace because we believed it was right." He thought about all the battles he had fought, all the times he had risked his life for the Council's version of peace, all the times he had followed orders without question. "But this is where it ends," Marcus declared. "No Council ship will leave this system with human children aboard. No human family will be torn apart on my watch. If the Council wants to see human violence, then they will see what happens when you threaten our young." The first Council ship fired at the Defiance. Marcus had expected this. His shields absorbed the blast easily. These were not warships, but transport vessels with light armament. "All stations, battle ready," Marcus ordered. "Target the transport ships. Disable them, but do not destroy them. Our children are aboard." "Sir," said Lieutenant Hayes, "we're receiving messages from other human ships in the system. The merchant vessel Lucky Strike is moving to support us. So is the patrol ship Vigilant." Marcus smiled grimly. "Any others?" "The mining ship Heavy Lifter is coming around the planet's far side. And sir, I'm getting signals from the surface. It looks like the planetary defense forces are back online." On the main screen, Marcus could see the battle beginning. Council transport ships were trying to reach hyperspace with their cargo of children. Human ships moved to block them. Energy beams and missile trails lit up the space around New Geneva. But this was not really about one battle over one planet. Marcus knew that. This was about something much bigger. This was about whether humanity would accept slavery or fight for freedom. "Lieutenant Hayes," Marcus said, "record a message and broadcast it on all frequencies. Ready?" "Sir." Marcus looked directly into the camera. "This is Captain Marcus Torres of the UES Defiance. Today the Galactic Council crossed a line they should never have crossed. They declared war on human families. They tried to steal our children." He paused as another Council ship exploded nearby, disabled by concentrated fire from 3 human vessels. "We have served the galaxy for 3 centuries. We have been peacekeepers, diplomats, and soldiers. We have followed the Council's rules even when we disagreed with them. But this ends now." Around him, his bridge crew worked efficiently to coordinate the growing battle. More human ships were arriving from across the system. The tide was turning. The Council thinks they know what human violence looks like, Marcus continued. They have seen us fight their wars under their rules. But they have never seen us fight for our own families. They are about to learn the difference. The last Council transport ship surrendered rather than face destruction. Soon, human children would be reunited with their families. But Marcus knew this was just the beginning. To every human in the galaxy, he said, remember this day. Remember that when they came for our children, we said no. Remember that freedom is worth fighting for. The message would spread across human space within hours, and with it, the fire that would burn down the Council's carefully ordered galaxy. Admiral Jiang Min stood in the war room deep inside Luna Base. Around her, dozens of screens showed the state of the galaxy 6 weeks after the New Geneva incident. What she saw there made her both proud and worried. Human forces had won every major battle since Captain Torres fired the first shot. 37 colonies had been liberated from Council control. 2 Council shipyards had been captured intact. Every facility where human children were being held had been stormed and emptied, but the cost was becoming clear. Admiral, said Intelligence Director Okafor, walking up with a datapad in his hands. We have the latest reports from the field commanders. Jiang took the pad and read through the summaries. Each one told the same story. Human forces were not just winning battles. They were destroying everything the Council had built in human space. Military bases, trade stations, communication relays, research facilities, all of it was being systematically eliminated. They're not taking prisoners, Jiang said quietly. Okafor nodded. The field commanders say Council forces are given one chance to surrender and leave human space. If they refuse, they are eliminated completely. Jiang understood why this was happening. When the Council took human children, they had broken something fundamental in the human psyche. They had attacked the one thing humans would never compromise on, their families. The response was predictable to anyone who understood human nature. But the galaxy did not understand human nature. They had seen humans at war before, but always under strict military discipline. Always following rules of engagement. Always showing mercy to defeated enemies. What they were seeing now was something different. Show me the tactical analysis of the Kepler Prime operation, Jiang said. Okafor activated a holographic display in the center of the room. The Kepler system appeared in miniature, with ship movements traced in colored lines. Council forces had established a major base on Kepler Prime, Okafor explained. 3,000 personnel, including administrators who had been involved in the child relocation program. Our forces arrived with overwhelming firepower and demanded surrender. Jiang watched the display as red dots representing Council ships tried to escape the system. Human ships, shown in blue, intercepted them with ruthless efficiency. The Council commander refused to surrender. Okafor continued. He said his forces would fight to defend Council authority. Our commander, Colonel Hayes, gave them exactly what they asked for. The hologram showed what happened next. Human forces did not attempt to capture the base or disable the ships. They simply destroyed everything. When Council reinforcements arrived 3 days later, they found nothing but debris. No survivors? Jiang asked. None. Hayes reported that anyone who participated in taking human children was considered a war criminal. No quarter was given. Jiang moved to another display showing the bigger picture. Human forces were advancing through Council space in 3 main groups, but they were not trying to hold territory or establish supply lines like normal armies. Instead, they moved like hunting packs, striking fast and hard before disappearing into space. It reminded Jiang of something from Earth's ancient past. Early humans had hunted large prey animals using persistence hunting. They would chase their target for days or weeks, never letting it rest until it collapsed from exhaustion. Then they would move in for the kill. That was exactly what humanity was doing to the Council's military. Director, Jiang said, what's the psychological impact on Council forces? Okafor pulled up another report. Severe. Council commanders are reporting massive desertion rates. Entire fleets are abandoning their posts rather than face human forces. The ones who stay are showing signs of extreme stress. Jiang read through the intercepted Council communications. Messages between their ships showed growing panic. They talked about humans appearing out of nowhere, striking without warning and vanishing before help could arrive. Some reported that humans seemed to know their positions before they did. They're starting to think humans can read their minds, Okafor said with a slight smile. Zhang did not smile back. She understood what was really happening. Humans had spent 3 centuries learning how other species thought and fought. They had served alongside council forces, studied their tactics, identified their weaknesses. Now they were using all that knowledge to wage a kind of warfare their enemies could not understand. What about our casualties? Zhang asked. Remarkably light. Human forces are avoiding direct confrontations when possible. They prefer ambushes, sabotage, and psychological warfare. When they do fight openly, they bring overwhelming force to ensure quick victory. Zhang nodded. This was human nature at its most basic. Humans were not the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, but they were the smartest hunters. They studied their prey, learned its habits, and struck when victory was certain. The door to the war room opened, and Captain Elena Vasquez entered. She was no longer an ambassador. That role had died when the Council issued its ultimatum. Now she wore the uniform of the Human Intelligence Service. Admiral, Elena said, I have the latest from our agents in Council space. Elena activated a secure communication system and began her report. High Arbiter Tishan called an emergency session of the full Council 3 days ago. They are discussing terms for a ceasefire. What kind of terms? Zhang asked. Complete withdrawal from human space. Recognition of human independence. Reparations for the families affected by the child relocation program. Zhang raised an eyebrow. And in exchange? They want humans to return to their pre-war borders and agree never to expand beyond them. Zhang laughed, but there was no humor in it. They still don't understand, do they? Elena shook her head. They think this is about territory. They think humans want to conquer the galaxy like other aggressive species have tried to do. But that's not what this is about, Zhang said. No, Elena agreed. This is about making sure no one ever threatens human families again. And the only way to guarantee that is to make sure no one has the power to threaten us. Zhang walked over to a display showing the current position of human forces. They were deep in Council space now, moving toward the core systems where the Council's leadership lived. How long until we reach Nexus Prime? Zhang asked. At current rate of advance, 2 weeks, Okafor replied. But Admiral, our forces are reporting something unusual. What? Council systems are surrendering before we even arrive. Word is spreading that resistance is futile. Some planets are actually asking for human protection. Zhang understood why this was happening. The Council had ruled through fear for centuries. They had convinced the galaxy that they were the only thing standing between civilization and chaos. But now humans had proven that the Council could be defeated. Without that fear, the Council's authority was collapsing. The Council created this situation, Zhang said quietly. They had a galaxy full of species that cooperated voluntarily. All they had to do was leave human families alone. She turned to Elena. Send a message to our field commanders. I want every Council leader who participated in the child relocation program captured alive. They will face trial for their crimes. And the others? Elena asked, standard terms. Surrender and withdraw or be destroyed. Elena nodded and left to send the orders. Zhang remained in the war room, watching the displays that showed humanity's advance through the galaxy. In 2 weeks, the most powerful government in galactic history would fall. And it would fall because they made the mistake of threatening human children. Zhang thought about her own grandchildren, safe now on Earth. The Council would never threaten them again. No one would. Humanity was making sure of that. The galaxy was about to learn that there were some lines you never crossed, and threatening human families was the biggest one of all. High Arbiter Thisahan had lived for 800 years. In that time, he had seen empires rise and fall. He had watched species destroy themselves with war and others achieve peace through wisdom. He had helped build the Galactic Council into the most powerful force in known space. Nothing in those 8 centuries had prepared him for what he was seeing. Now the crystalline being stood in the emergency command center on Nexus Prime, surrounded by holographic displays showing the collapse of Council authority across the galaxy. Each screen told the same story. Human forces were advancing through Council space like a plague, destroying everything in their path. Report, Thisan commanded, his harmonic voice cracking with frequencies of fear. General Cathara of the Voidborn Hegemony stepped forward. The insectoid warrior had commanded Council forces for 50 years. His species were natural soldiers, evolved for combat on a world where everything tried to kill everything else. But now, his compound eyes showed something Thisan had never seen before. Terror. The humans have taken the Rigel sector, Cathara reported, his voice clicking with distress. Admiral Zextai's entire fleet was eliminated in 17 minutes. No survivors. Thisan processed this information with growing horror. Admiral Zextai commanded the Council's Third Fleet. Over 200 ships and 50,000 personnel. How could they be eliminated so quickly? What about the defense platforms around Rigel 4? Thisan asked. Gone. The humans somehow disabled them all simultaneously. Our analysts believe they used some kind of computer virus, but we don't understand how they got past our security systems. Thisan turned to the tactical display showing the current state of the war. What he saw there defied everything he knew about military strategy. Human forces were moving through Council space faster than should be possible. They appeared in systems without warning, destroyed everything military-related, and vanished before reinforcements could arrive. They're not fighting like any military doctrine in our databases, Cathara continued. They don't try to hold territory. They don't establish supply lines. They just hunt us. The word hunt made Thisan's crystalline form vibrate with unease. The Council had always classified humans as predators, but they thought this meant humans were simply aggressive. Now they were learning what predator really meant. Show me the psychological analysis, Thisan ordered. Dr. Veltash, the Council's chief military psychologist, activated another display. Her slug-like form glistened with stress secretions as she began her report. The human military has abandoned conventional warfare entirely, she explained. They are using what our xenobiologists call persistence hunting, a strategy their ancestors used on their homeworld. The display showed video of ancient humans on Earth, chasing large animals across vast distances. The humans were not fast enough to catch their prey in a sprint, but they never stopped running. Eventually, the prey animal would collapse from exhaustion. They are applying this strategy on a galactic scale, Dr. Veltash continued. Human forces strike, retreat, and strike again. They never allow our forces to rest or regroup. The psychological effect is devastating. Thisan studied the reports from Council commanders in the field. Many were requesting immediate evacuation. Others had simply abandoned their posts. The few who remained reported that their crews were breaking down under the constant stress of being hunted. We have intercepted human communications, Dr. Veltash added. They broadcast a simple message on repeat. We know where you are. We know where you're going. We're coming. The message was genius in its simplicity. It told Council forces that they were being watched constantly, that there was no safe place to hide. Even when no humans were present, Council soldiers felt like they were being stalked. Our forces are abandoning entire systems rather than face them, Cathara reported. The 42nd Fleet simply left their posts yesterday. They said fighting humans was suicide. Thisan absorbed this information with growing despair. The Council military was the most powerful force in the galaxy. They had ships that could destroy planets and weapons that could level continents, but none of that mattered if their crews were too terrified to use them. What about our intelligence networks? Thisan asked. Can we at least track their movements? That's the most disturbing part, said Intelligence Director Morgan, a blob-like being who spoke through chemical emissions. Humans seem to know our plans before we make them. They arrive at target locations before our forces do. They set ambushes in places they shouldn't know about. Thisan's form flickered with confusion. How is that possible? We believe they have been infiltrating our systems for decades, Morgan explained. Every human who ever served the Council, every diplomat, every technician, they were all gathering intelligence. The full scope of human planning became clear to Thisan. For 3 centuries, humans had worked alongside Council forces. They had learned every secret, mapped every base, studied every weakness. They had been preparing for this war since the day they first met the Council. They never served us, Thisan realized. They were studying us. It gets worse, Morgan continued. We have discovered human infiltrators in our own computer networks. They have been inside our systems for years, watching everything we do. Thisan thought about all the meetings he had attended with human observers present, all the strategic plans they had discussed, all the secrets they had shared. Humans had been taking notes on everything. How many of our security protocols have been compromised? He asked. All of them, Morgan admitted. Every code, every encryption method, every secure facility. Humans know more about Council operations than most Council members do. A new alarm began sounding throughout the command center. Thisan turned toward the tactical officer. a multi-armed being whose species had perfect spatial awareness. Report, Thyssen commanded. Human forces have entered the Nexus system, the officer announced. They appeared without warning on the edge of sensor range. Thyssen looked at the display showing his home system. Nexus Prime was the most heavily defended location in Council space. 3 defensive fleets patrolled the system constantly. Orbital platforms surrounded every planet. Energy shields protected the most important facilities. But even as he watched, those defenses were failing. Human ships moved through the system like they owned it, destroying anything that resisted and ignoring anything that didn't. How many ships? Thyssen asked. We're not sure, the tactical officer replied. They appear to be using some kind of stealth technology. Our sensors detect them for a few seconds, then lose them again. Cathara studied the tactical display with professional interest. They're not using stealth, he said slowly. They're using the system's own infrastructure against us. Look at their movement patterns. Thyssen followed Cathara's pointing appendage. Human ships were moving between the orbital platforms, using them as cover. They struck from behind asteroids and space stations. They hid in the shadows of planets and moons. They know this system better than we do, Cathara realized. They've mapped every hiding place, every blind spot in our sensors. The truth hit Thyssen like a physical blow. Humans had been preparing for this specific battle for years. They knew exactly where every council ship would be, where every weapon was placed, how long it would take reinforcements to arrive. Estimated time until they reached this facility? Thyssen asked. The tactical officer's arms moved over his controls rapidly. At current rate of advance, 17 minutes. 17 minutes. That was how long the most secure facility in the galaxy had left before human forces arrived. Thyssen thought about all the council members who had voted to take human children. They were all here in this building, believing they were safe behind layers of defense. They had been wrong about everything. Wrong about human nature, wrong about human loyalty, wrong about human capabilities. And now they were about to pay for those mistakes. Send a message to all remaining council forces, Thyssen ordered. Full surrender. No resistance, sir. Cathara looked confused. You said it yourself, General. Fighting humans is suicide. Maybe if we surrender now, some of us will survive to learn from this mistake. But even as he gave the order, Thyssen doubted it would matter. Humans had not come this far to accept surrender. They had come to end the Council forever, and there was nothing left to stop them. The High Council chamber on Nexus Prime had never been breached in its 1,000-year history. Built from materials that could survive supernovas, protected by shields that could stop planet-killer weapons, guarded by the elite forces of 12 species, it was considered the most secure location in the galaxy. It fell in 17 minutes. Admiral Jiang Min materialized in the center of the chamber, her environmental suit's camouflage system fading away. Around her, human soldiers emerged from impossible hiding places. They came out of air vents that seemed too small to hold a person. They rose from floor panels that had appeared solid. They stepped out of shadows that should not have been deep enough to conceal anyone. High Arbiter Thyssen watched in crystalline horror as more humans appeared throughout the massive chamber. His compound eyes counted at least 50 soldiers, but he suspected there were more he could not see. They had been inside the most secure facility in council space, waiting. How? Thyssen's harmonic voice was barely audible. Jiang Min's smile was cold as space. You never understood us, did you? You thought human aggression was our only dangerous trait. You never realized that we are also the galaxy's greatest survivors. She gestured to the humans around her. We adapt. We hide, we wait. We learn. And we've been inside your systems for 300 years. The truth was staggering. Every human who had ever served the Council had been gathering intelligence. Every diplomat, every soldier, every technician had been mapping facilities, learning security protocols, and identifying weaknesses. The Council had invited their greatest enemy into their most secret places and called them allies. Jiang walked toward the Council members' raised platform. Around the chamber, other Council leaders sat frozen in their chairs. Some were trying to activate personal defense systems that had mysteriously stopped working. Others were attempting to call for help on communication devices that no longer responded. 3 centuries, Jiang continued, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. 3 centuries of faithful service. 3 centuries of fighting your wars, keeping your peace, following your rules. And you repaid that loyalty by trying to steal our children. She stopped in front of Thyssen's crystalline form. That was your mistake. You could have kept us as your servants forever, if you had been content with that. But you tried to change what we are at the genetic level. You tried to edit our children to remove their humanity. Around the chamber, human soldiers were efficiently placing restraints on council members. Not energy shackles or force fields, but simple mechanical devices that would work regardless of power systems. Human engineering at its most practical. The children, Zhang said, her voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber. You took our children and told us it was for their own good. You said you would train them to be better than their parents. Less violent, more obedient. She turned to address the entire chamber. Every human parent in the galaxy heard that message. And every human parent made the same decision. You had to be stopped. All of you. Forever. General Cathara, the insectoid warrior who had served the council for decades, finally found his voice. You cannot police an entire galaxy. Your numbers are too small. Are they? Zhang asked, activating a holographic display in the center of the chamber. The display showed the current state of the galaxy. Council space was marked in red, but most of those red areas were flickering to green as human forces took control. Independent systems were shown in yellow, and many of those were also turning green. We don't need to occupy your worlds, Zhang explained. We just need you to know that if you step out of line, we will find you. All of you, wherever you hide, however long it takes. She gestured to the chamber around them. You held this meeting in the most secure location in known space. We have been here for 6 hours, waiting for you to finish discussing surrender terms. Do you really want to test whether we can find you again? The display showed more than just military conquest. It showed species across the galaxy voluntarily joining human protection zones. Worlds that had been forced to pay tribute to the Council were declaring independence. Trade routes that had been controlled by Council taxation were becoming free markets. The age of galactic government is over, Zhang announced. No more councils. No more empires. No more species telling other species how to live. Dr. Veltash, the slug-like psychologist, spoke up with a trembling voice. Without central authority, there will be chaos. Wars between species, economic collapse, maybe, Zhang agreed. But that will be their choice. Humans will not rule the galaxy any more than the Council did. We will simply make sure that no one else tries to either. She turned back to Thisun. Here are the new rules. Every species governs itself within its traditional boundaries. No expansion into other species' territory. No interference in other species' internal affairs. No attempts to create galactic governments or empires. And if someone violates these rules? Thisun asked. Zhang's smile became predatory. Then they will discover what happens when you make humanity angry. We will hunt them down and eliminate them. Not conquer them. Not rule them. Eliminate them. The distinction was important. Humans were not offering to become the galaxy's new rulers. They were appointing themselves as its apex predators. Any species that became too aggressive would find itself facing extinction. You're talking about genocide, another council member protested. No, Zhang replied calmly. We're talking about consequences. The council tried to commit genocide against human culture by stealing our children. You wanted to turn them into obedient servants who would never question your authority. She activated another display, showing footage from the human colonies during the child relocation program. Alien soldiers dragging screaming children from their parents' arms. Families torn apart by council decree. Children loaded onto transport ships like cargo. This is genocide, Zhang said, pointing to the images. What we are doing is justice. Around the chamber, the last of the council leadership was being secured. Some would face trial for their role in the child relocation program. Others would be exiled to remote worlds where they could live out their lives in peace as long as they never tried to regain power. The trial transcripts will be broadcast throughout the galaxy, Zhang announced. Every species will learn exactly what the Council tried to do to human families. They will understand why this happened. As human forces began their withdrawal from the chamber, Zhang delivered her final message to the galaxy's former rulers. Earth remembers, she said, her voice carrying a weight of absolute certainty. Earth is watching. Earth is waiting. The words would become humanity's new motto, spoken in 1,000 languages across 1,000,000 worlds. A promise to the galaxy's peaceful species that they would be protected. A warning to any species that might consider conquest, that they would be hunted. Thisun watched through the chamber's great windows. As human ships departed Nexus, Prime, they left behind no occupying force. No administrators, no new government. They simply vanished into space as quietly as they had arrived. But their message was clear. The galaxy's new apex predator had shown its teeth. Any species that forgot the lesson of the Council's fall would learn it again, personally and permanently. In the depths of space, Admiral Zhang's final transmission echoed across 10,000 star systems. The Council went too far. Humanity's patience is broken. The galaxy is free. Keep it that way. The age of consequences had begun, and humanity would be watching from the shadows, making sure it never ended.